start. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining yet our last session of 2020. Woo! We made it. During this time of social and physical distancing, SACPA believes it's important to keep engaging with the public on issues of the day. And in order to do so, we are very thankful for the continuing support we receive from the University of Lethbridge, Shaw Spotlight, and the Lethbridge Herald. SACPA believes in providing a safe place for everyone to participate in a meaningful conversation and will do its best to preserve and promote such a context on all its settings. As a result, SACPA will not tolerate any bullying or harassment on its channels. Comments designed to attack, bully, harass individuals based on their race, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, country of origin, or political affiliation will not be tolerated. Further comments containing obscenity or defamatory language will be deleted. Today we have with us Byron Bradley, who is talking to us about the Mustard Seed project. And Byron is the managing director of the Mustard Seed in Central Alberta and is currently overseeing operations for the Mustard Seed Lethbridge. Byron has worked for the Mustard Seed for more than 15 years. While attending university in Sydney, Australia, he became involved in programming for youth affected by poverty and has worked in this field ever since. Byron is passionate about putting his 20+ years of experience towards building hope and well-being for vulnerable and marginalized individuals in Lethbridge and helping those around him better understand the issues of poverty and homelessness. Byron, thank you so much for joining us today on SACPA, and we look very much forward to your talk.
Thank you very much, Annalise. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to be with everybody online today. It's unfortunate that we can't meet in person and see many of your faces today, but I look forward to sharing the presentation with you about the work of the Mustard Seed and the hope that we're hoping to do here in Lethbridge. So thanks so much for joining today online. So we can start the presentation now. The Mustard Seed is a Christian nonprofit organization that has been caring for women, men, and children experiencing poverty and homelessness since 1984. We deliver basic services, support services including employment, advocacy, counseling, health and wellness, and affordable housing to those people that need those supports. And we do that by partnering with the community to address the root causes of poverty. Lethbridge would be the 6th city that the Mustard Seed will be located in Canada. And 36 years ago, we started in the basement of a church. And in every community where we run programs and services, we hope to really understand what those root causes of poverty are. These are people's sons and daughters, moms and dads, brothers and sisters. And so we take it very seriously to care for them, to provide a safe place of refuge for them, to give them every opportunity in their lives to help them move forward so that they're a sustainable member of the community. That is what we're wanting to do in the city of Lethbridge. And we're excited to be here and to bring our work here and to partner with the amazing people that have been doing this work for a long time in Lethbridge by standing beside them and behind them and partnering with them in this very important task of caring for our very most vulnerable people in Lethbridge. Next slide, please. Our vision is to eliminate homelessness and reduce poverty where we serve. Eliminating homelessness is a very tall order, a tall task. But we strive every day across our 5 cities where we're currently located to do everything that we can do to eliminate homelessness. We don't want to have people sleeping on a mat in a shelter. We want people to be in a secure and safe home, a place that they can call home. And to quote a lady that just recently told us when she moved into one of our buildings, she said, "It was very refreshing that I was able to close the door and have a fresh breath of air." Our founder one time was speaking to a group of 45 grade 8 students at the Mustard Seed in downtown Calgary. And he shared a story about how these strangers took him into their home. And he walked over to that corner of the room and he opened the door and he closed the door. And he told all these grade 8 students in the room that he said that sound of the door closing is one of the sweetest sounds that he's ever heard in his life. Because when these strayed into their home, he said that was the first time that I had a door in between myself and the rest of the world in about 10 years of my life, other than a bathroom at McDonald's or at the mall. That dignity and that respect that was shown to him so many years ago is just incredible. And the Mustard Seed has been striving to do that ever since. That respect and dignity and care for people. These are people's children, and we want to give them a safe place where they can hopefully move forward. Or maybe if they didn't have hope, that they would have hope again in their lives. That is what we want to do. And our mission is to build hope and well-being for our most vulnerable citizens through Jesus' love. As I've talked already about hope, it's critical for humans to have hope, to look forwards, to have something that keeps you going forwards, to look forward to in your lives. And we want to care for the whole person, for their whole well-being, for their body, mind, and spirit. Barriers are that have them facing homelessness. Those are the things that we want to address at their pace, meeting them where they're at, never trying to force anything on them, but having our doors open to all human beings, regardless of who they are or where they come from. We accept them as best as we can, and we try to care for that whole person. Next slide, please. We have two initiatives that we are trying to do here in Lethbridge. The first one is affordable housing. We are hoping to make a significant investment in the community by providing affordable housing through the Rapid Housing Initiative with the federal government. This is an incredible opportunity for the city of Lethbridge. We have applied for this funding and we hope to receive the funding because the federal government wants to partner to help reduce homelessness across our country. There are many, many people that are affected by poverty and homelessness. So this is an incredible opportunity that I have not seen in my 17 years with the Mustard Seed, this federal government. There will be, in our proposed site, we see that we believe that we'll have 86 self-contained units there. And if this goes ahead in the current property, we will be putting in 86 kitchens into the hotel so that these will be fully self-contained units. This will be a sober and secure living environment so that when individuals are mingling with one another and they're in this building and they're interacting with one another, this will be a very safe environment with a very high level of accountability and care for them. We will also have 24/7 support. Our housing support workers are there to care for people and just be there for them. Some people may not need these types of supports, but some might. And so we're there because we want them to become a sustainable member of community. They may choose to live there for the rest of their lives, and they're like a person that is unable to pay for market rent in the community. And so this would be an affordable place for them to live, where they can hopefully get back on their 2 feet and again become a sustainable member of the community. We have very high presence on our properties across Western Canada. Do not allow loitering on our properties. I just heard 2 days ago from our executive director in Edmonton. We opened up a new shelter, and this is not a shelter, our affordable housing. An example, we opened a new shelter in the south side of Edmonton. When we went in there and opened up on November 1st, there was some hard questions. There was some opposition to us in that community. And the Edmonton police just came and told us that since the Mustard Seed opened our doors on November 1st, just over a month ago, they are so happy to tell us that the crime and the loitering has actually decreased in that community. It's hard to understand that as a residential neighbor, as a business neighbor, but I have seen that in a number of communities across Western Canada. We have a very high amount of visibility in the community. Our staff continue to do perimeter checks. And because we build really deep relationships with people, we are to ask and demand a high level of accountability for those that are receiving support and care from the Mustard Seed. That is critical for us. And so having a safe neighborhood and a safe community around us is very, very critical. We will have on-site advocacy, employment coaches that'll help people look for jobs. I had the privilege of meeting 18 businesses yesterday in person around the property, and a number of these businesses were saying some incredible things. Many had some questions and some concerns, and we did our best to answer those questions and to be as transparent as possible. And a number of them said some pretty remarkable things like, Byron, I can't wait to come over and share some of our products with your staff to thank them for caring for people in affordable housing. Another business owner said, you know, if someone throws a birthday party, I would love to bring over my yummy products to your team. That was such a blessing yesterday to meet a number of the individuals, the business managers and owners around the property. This is permanent housing. It is not a traditional housing. This is not a treatment center. This is not a detox center. And this is not a shelter. This is a multi-residential building where a number of individuals can live in this building for the rest of their lives. Another example that I like to share is just how important security is to us in this building. So let's say you live on the 4th floor and your friend wants to come visit you. Your friend is actually not going to be able to just walk up to the 4th floor and knock on your door. You have to prearrange and to show up so that you can meet in our lobby. And we want to do that to protect individuals. Maybe there's a lady that has been, or a gentleman that has been fleed from a domestic violence situation. We want to make sure that they are in a safe and secure environment and that each resident in that building welcomes their guests in. That is something that we learned in Portland, Oregon, when we did a lot of research there several years ago, because that city reduced homelessness by 75% in a 10-year period. And that's one of the things they told us was to be very intentional on the people that come visit the residents in your. Next slide, please. The residents that want to move in with us will be screened like they would in any other multifamily residential building. They will meet down and have an interview with the landlord or the property manager, and we would do that just like any other building. As I said before, it's not a shelter, it's not a treatment center, and it's not a detox center. This is a place for people who cannot afford the market rent in Red Deer and people that need a safe and secure building, and potentially they could live there for the rest of the. As I mentioned already a couple times, our goal is that our residents become sustainable members of the community. We hope that they would be in the businesses around them. We hope that some of them might be working in the businesses around them, using the public transit that is ideally located, and etc. Next slide, please. The second initiative that we are hoping to do is opening up a sober shelter in the city of Lethbridge. This would be in a completely different area, not near the proposed site at the Ramada. This would be closer to the downtown core. Also, it would be a very safe and supportive environment. We would have 24 access to the streets that are fighting for sobriety and currently people that don't have a safe space to be during COVID. I feel very privileged in my life. Early in March, when I fell sick at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was able to be in my home in a very safe and secure place. I was asked by Alberta Health Services to quarantine for 14 days back when we didn't know a lot about this disease. Unfortunately, that's not the reality for thousands and thousands of people across our nation, hundreds of people in the city of Lethbridge. They do not have a safe place where they can go and be by themselves or in small groups of people, most of them. And so we open up another space for people So if they are trying to stay sober, or people that don't choose substance use. One of the misconceptions is people that are experiencing homelessness that we see out on the streets, that they are all affected by drugs and alcohol. That just simply is not the case. I have met hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people across my career here in Calgary and in Red Deer and in Lethbridge and Edmonton and overseas, that where people are not struggling with substance use. There are those that do struggle with substance use, but that is not the case for everybody. We will also not have we will have no loitering on our property as well. Similar to the Affordable Housing Initiative, we will have a very high presence of our staff doing perimeter checks, not allowing people to loiter around our property. When we went to Red Deer in 2016, we moved there and were offered the assets from another organization that had been doing incredible work for the previous 25 years. They had run out of supports in the community, and so they reached out to us and said, hey, Mustard Seed, would you be willing to come to Red Deer? We don't want to abandon the people that we've been caring for. These families that rely on us for hampers, who we feed lunches to in the schools across the city, would you be willing to come on and carry that torch forwards, because we can't continue on? We are humbled with that offer. It was a large undertaking for us. Prayerful consideration and many conversations with the city of Red Deer, the business community and the church community and the community at large, we decided to go to Red Deer. Fast forward to today, 4.5 years later, we have just seen an incredible amount of growth and support in the city of Red Deer. One of the things we're really proud of, again, it's not what we're currently going to be doing in Lethbridge, but it's something that we just love, and we love helping their folks out there, is our lunch program. Every school day, between 300 and 500 kids receive a school lunch at their school in 7 communities across central Alberta. Because of the support from our volunteers that show up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the staff that come in, and the amazing businesses that partner with us, like the bakery that sends over every single school day, we make a nutritious lunch that has a fresh serving of fruits and vegetables, a fresh sandwich. And these are delivered by volunteers every school day of the year across central Alberta. That program, unfortunately, has grown a lot because the needs have. And so in each community where we're located, we try to respond to what the needs are in that particular community. We've also partnered with the Red Deer Food Bank in Red Deer, and we opened up the Flight Depot in the city of Red Deer to provide food hampers during this COVID period. We also work very hard, as I mentioned, with volunteers. It's so critical to have people from all walks of society to be involved in the care for our most vulnerable. We cannot do this without you. Volunteers have been a part of the Mustard Seed's work over the last 36 years. They are our angels. They are the ones that I look up to. And so we cannot do this without the work of the volunteers. Last year across our 5 cities, 115,000 volunteer hours were donated to the Mustard Seed. Just an incredible amount of support from people from all walks of life, doing all sorts of things for the Mustard Seed. Here in Lethbridge, it'll be no different. We have a list of about 40 people that have already contacted us that are in a waiting line to get involved. We want to care. Let us know how we can come and serve and care for the most vulnerable here in Lethbridge. So thank you, Lethbridge, for those of you that have reached out and have offered to help out. We're working very hard to try to secure a location for a shelter for this winter. It's very cold in Alberta winters, as we know. And especially during COVID, our most vulnerable are at a very high level of risk. So it's crucial for us as a community to provide a safe space for them, especially for a time such as this. We had hoped that we would have our doors open already. We're hoping to be open on December 1st, and we're working very, very hard to secure a location in the city of Lethbridge for a shelter. So we are currently looking for something that could maybe be short-term for this winter, Also, concurrently at the same time, we are procuring a term location for this sober shelter. So if you are a person in Lethbridge today, and I've met a number of people already that have that I've come across the streets of Lethbridge over the last. One gentleman that comes to mind, he with his friend, or maybe it was his brother. And when I was telling him how the Mustard Seed is hoping to open a shelter, a tear came to his eye. He was choked up and he stopped talking. And he said, Byron, I've stayed at the shelter at the Mustard Seed in Calgary, and I would be so happy to have you here in our community. He said, I don't want to go over to the shelter here tonight because I have a lot of friends there that pull me down and pull me back. I would be so happy to be at the Mustard Seed where I know I could be in a sober environment, where I could start turning my life around. That was an incredible conversation, and that's why the Mustard Seed wants to come to Lethbridge. We want to make a significant investment in your community, but procuring a long-term solution so that people have a safe and supportive place to be, and hopefully hope can grow for them again. And hopefully they can feel that dignity and that respect that they deserve as a human being. That our love and our care and showing dignity to people comes from our very deep values, that we believe that all humans are to be treated with and love. That is what drives the team at the Mustard Seed, the staff and the volunteers. We want to care for them. They have been forgotten. They have been overlooked. They have been ignored in society. Some call them the unimportant of this world. So our job at the is to do all we can, provide them a chance to reinstill hope in their lives and stand beside them shoulder to shoulder with the whole community. We can't do this alone. We need the whole community to stand beside us in this very important work. Next slide, please. We're also really excited to be partnering with the Lethbridge Soup Kitchen. The Lethbridge Soup Kitchen has actually been doing work in the community for 36 years, just like the Mustard Seed. We know that by coming together and joining forces in an effort to better serve individuals experiencing poverty and homelessness will only be that much stronger. I heard a philanthropist say it early on in COVID that it is a time purge, merge, and surge. It's a time for us to look at our lives and our businesses and our communities, and it's reminded us what's really, really important in our community. And for myself and the community that I live in, I've been very thankful for the opportunities that I've had to have conversations with neighbors that I didn't know before. I met a gentleman that's about 20 houses away. I got to know him quite quickly. In 2 conversations, we were able to share with one another about our families and some of the struggles that we are facing together during this unprecedented time. And it's been such an incredible time to just really care for people, build relationships, and say, hey, fellow neighbor and fellow human, we're in this together. We are not alone. And so we're really excited that we came together with the Lethbridge Soup Kitchen. After much consideration, the 2 organizations have determined that we can accomplish a lot more together than we can apart. Building on our shared mission-based values, as well as our individual strengths and expertise, the 2 organizations will be able to provide enhanced services and programs to. And so we're really, really excited to partner with the Lethbridge Soup Kitchen and stand on their shoulders and continue the amazing work by feeding people and expanding the services beyond the food. Next slide, please. I've mentioned some of these already. Here are a few of the realities that our most vulnerable are facing today in Southern Alberta and across our nation. As I mentioned, not all individuals experiencing homelessness struggle with substance use. Many people are fighting for sobriety on the streets. It's critical for us to have options for people of homelessness and poverty. We need to have places for people to go when they're under the influence of drugs and alcohol. And we also need places for people to go when they are trying to stay sober, or for individuals that don't use substances in their lives. It's very, very, very important to provide that space for people. Many counselors, many psychologists will agree with this statement. It actually comes from one of the leading addiction counselors in our nation, that the most important step in recovery is to change your environment. If you don't change your environment, it is almost impossible to make those changes in your life. And so that's what the Mustard Seed wants to do. We want to provide a safe and secure environment so that people can move forwards and step away from the substance abuse that maybe they've been struggling with, to face head on the mental health challenges that they've been dealing with in their lives, maybe physical health challenges, maybe financial barriers and trying. We want to sit down with them, help them get ready for maybe the first interview in their life as an adult, maybe help them build the first resume that they've ever built, or setting up an email address because they've never had email before. Some of these things that I've probably taken for granted in my life, there are many, many adults in our society that need somebody to walk beside them shoulder to shoulder doing these very, very important tasks, but they need someone beside them to do that. They need a safe and sober environment that's appropriate for COVID-19. We need to raise the bar for our vulnerable citizens this winter. Otherwise, many people could die. Next slide, please. What's important to us: to build strong relationships with neighbors while enforcing a no loitering policy on our properties. I feel I covered that. Encouraging transformation and life change. We are solution focused and we provide holistic wraparound care. We build partnerships and collaborate with people that are already doing excellent work in the community. We want to stand beside them and offer more opportunities for people wherever they might be on the spectrum. Shelter stay should be temporary. Our vulnerable should be properly housed, supported, and become sustainable members of the community. That is our goal here in Lethbridge. Next slide, please. We have a new landing page on our website. Our main site is the seed.ca. If you type in the seed.ca/Lethbridge, there you will find all the newest information, and we will be continually updating that as information comes available. Very soon, we will be securing a virtual town hall meeting, similar to this type of a meeting today, where people can ask some questions, share their concerns, and we'll be posting that date on that website as soon as possible. We also have a few printouts that people can download, print out, that has some information there as well. Next slide, please. I want to share with you just quickly the impact of the Mustard Seed across Western Canada last year. As I mentioned, 115,000 volunteer hours were donated across our 5 cities, which is just incredible. 60,600 people received health and wellness services. That could be sitting with our volunteer doctor in Red Deer or doctor in Calgary. That could be sitting down with a psychologist in Edmonton or a counselor in Kamloops. That could be sitting down with an advocate that supports you one-on-one. Maybe it's a chiropractor or a physiotherapist. We have a number of wellness services at our sites across Western Canada. 485 of our clients were gainfully employed. Incredible. Very important to help people get sustainable income. 1,350 people attended a spiritual care event at the Mustard Seed. And one thing to mention there, we are a Christian organization, but all of our spiritual care events are 100% optional for people that want to join them. We served 503,000 meals to people across our 5 cities last year, only because of the support from each and every volunteer and each and every community. 325 people were living in affordable housing, and 486 emergency shelter mats were provided to people. Next slide, please. I want to end with a quick story about a guy I will call Gus. Gus is a gentleman that I got to know in one of our other cities in Western Canada. He came to our meals and he hung out at our fellowship times, and he was not homeless, but he came for community. We found out very quickly at the beginning of COVID, in terms of the Red Deer Mustard Seed, about 70% of the people that came to that location were not homeless. They had a home. And so early on then, we were only able to serve meals to those that are in our overnight shelter. And we quickly saw how many people were missing us because they would call us, they would email us, they would stop by our front door to receive supports. And Gus was one of these guys that when he heard about our 1010 center in Calgary and our affordable housing there, he's asked me how he could apply for housing. And so I put him in touch with our residential worker in Calgary. He met them, he did an interview with them, and he got accepted to move. He said, Byron, I don't really overly want to leave Red Deer, but he said, this opportunity in your building in Calgary just looks like it could be just what I need in my life. Well, I saw Gus. I actually brought him to a hockey game later that winter. We went out for dinner and a few other of our guests joined us. And he just could not stop talking about the amazing community and how his life has just completely turned around. He said, Byron, my anxiety and my mental health has improved. I started volunteering across the street at the Mustard Seed. He said, they've accepted me into the community. When we opened up in the Northeast neighborhood in Calgary, there was Gus. Gus was there at the grand opening event here up at that hub in the Northeast. He said, Byron, it's changed my life. I feel like I'm just a member of the community now. I feel safe. I feel supported. And he said, I've made so many new friends. That's what it's all about. We want to provide opportunity for the Gus's in our community. Somebody that was really struggling and struggled with a lot of panic attacks in his life. He lived on his own. He felt isolated. But then when he moved into our affordable housing tower, he felt very supported and was a part of a healthy community. And it was just incredible to see the joy in his life. That is why we want to come to Lethbridge. We want to provide those opportunities for people that are affected by homelessness and poverty. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to doing my best to answer your questions and as transparently as I can today. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, Byron, for your informative talk. We have an awful lot of questions already in the queue. So having said that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the format that we practiced while we were, well, SACPA was in the Legion, where you were to ask one question and then you'd go to the back of the queue. This would allow other people down the chat program to also have an ability to ask their question without having too many people having their repeat questions. So I will start with the first question in the queue from Bev Mundell. With a kitchen in each unit, do you give fire safety training to residents?
Thank you, sir. I missed the name, but thank you very much for your question.
Bev Mundell.
Thank you very much for your question. Thank you. All of our buildings would have a very clear fire safety plan, and we would be actually bringing more fire safety to the building. As I don't believe currently, if I remember correctly, that in the proposed site that there are sprinklers throughout. I could be wrong on that one, but that is critical for us, is to have a very, very safe home for people. There would be a very safe fire plan. We have already talked to a number of people in the community about that. And there would be a very clear plan for people for safety to make sure that they were well cared for. They would know what to do in the case of an emergency. For instance, where the muster point would be outside and where the stairs are located, of course. And so absolutely, fire safety would be very, very critical in that building and is in all of our buildings across Western Canada. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Colleen Quintel. Has the Mustard Seed secured premises for both programs? And what role does the city of Lethbridge play into finding funding for this? And I'm going to join this question with a couple of other questions because they're all around funding. Maria Fitzpatrick follows up on this, saying, to follow up on Colleen's question, where does the Mustard Seed get their funding overall? And then Laurie Schultz asks, is the Mustard Seed receiving any provincial funding? So provincial, local funding, and has the Mustard Seed secured a premise for your programs?
Thank you, Colleen and Marie, for your questions. We have not finalized or secured our local initiatives. So first, for the affordable housing building at the proposed Ramada site on Mayor McGrath, we have put an application into the federal government to the rapid housing, and we're waiting to hear back. There's a possibility that we don't get funding, and if we don't get funding for the building, then we'll be unable to purchase that building at this time. And so we've put that application into the federal government. For the shelter, we have been really hard at work. That has been the more immediate, trying to open our doors this winter. As it was minus 28 with the wind chill, I think it was last week or the night before, in the middle of the night, I just was feeling the weight of people that are out on the streets. We've heard that. I met an Indigenous fellow here in the community who told me that when we open our doors, that he knows of at least 10 people that would come into our shelter probably on the first night. And so we are trying really hard to secure that location, and we are working with the city of Lethbridge to find an appropriate space. And we've had a number of conversations with different groups in the community to hear their feedback, to share our vision on how we do what we do. But neither location has been secured. But a lot of work has been going on behind the scenes. A lot of collaborative work has been going behind the scenes. In terms of provincial funding, the Alberta government does fund our shelters. So the work that we do in our shelters currently in Edmonton, in Calgary, in Red Deer, and then when we open our Lethbridge, we would be receiving financial support from the Alberta government. And so the shelter side of our work is in partnership with the Alberta government, but almost all the rest of our work, not everything else, but almost everything else, we raise supports from the community. That is how the Mustard Seed has grown over the years. And it is only by that incredible and generous support from the overall community that we are able to help eliminate homelessness and reduce poverty where we serve. Thank you.
Okay, I think the last one was the local funding. Is there going to be local council, city council funding?
I believe the city of Lethbridge wants to partner with the Mustard Seed with the Affordable Housing Initiative. I am not privy to all the details on that, but that is a conversation that has taken place. And I do believe that the city of Lethbridge is wanting to support the Affordable Housing Initiative here in Lethbridge, but I don't have all the particular details for that at this time.
Our next question comes from Violet Makema. Are couples allowed in the housing units?
Thank you, Violet, for your question. I'll do my very best to answer the question. Because we are still early in the process, we are still finalizing all of the details for our affordable housing tower. And so I'm not privy to all of those details. Myself personally, I've been asked to come down here to start the shelter and to try to secure a location for the shelter. But of course, the affordable housing project is also going ahead concurrently. And so I am not familiar with all of the finalized details, but to my knowledge, a place that would welcome couples and individuals into this building. But again, they're small studio style self-contained units. They're not large units. And so they don't have a separate bedroom. They are just one studio style room. And so not a lot of space. And so we would want to make sure that the space is appropriate for the number of people that would be living in the suite. And so I don't have a final answer for you today, but we will, as all of these details are determined, we will update our the c.ca/Lethbridge with these details for the community as they come available.
Our next question comes from Timothy from the Lethbridge Herald. Our local homeless have trust issues with our shelter because some feel there are oppressive rules and invasive searches there. How do you balance their trust with concerns of the larger community?
Thanks for your question, Timothy. Nice to talk. I can't see you again. Trust is critical. Trust is not given, and respect is just not freely given. Trust and respect is earned. At the Mustard Seed, our goal is to build relationships with people, to accept our very, very best, to not judge them, to show them love. And in that process, we built a number of incredible relationships with people. With those deep-rooted relationships, what happens is people respect you for the most part, and they will agree to high levels of accountability. And so I've seen this in a number of cities across Western Canada where I've had the opportunity to work on the front lines, where people are very of our rules, and so this is something that we need to do. We need to focus on building that trust and building those relationships. It takes time to do that, and but we let people know right out of the gates that this is our bar. Here's our level of accountability. This is what we do to our shelter, and we ask for people to follow those rules and hold them accountable to those rules. But that is something that takes the trust in those relationships.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Lori Schultz. Have those critical of your plans provided any viable or realistic solutions?
Was that Lori?
Lori Schultz, yeah. Lori. Yeah.
Hi, Lori. Thanks for your question. People that, if I heard that correctly, people that are opposing the work, have they offered us viable other solutions? Where we have received some feedback on different locations, people have said, we'll support you in trying to find a better solution. But for the most part, people that oppose the work that we're doing, there hasn't been other solutions for the most part that people have brought our. And so again, we are working very hard with the city. We are working hard with our new partner, the Lethbridge Soup Kitchen. We are getting to know a lot of other organizations in the community, and look forward to building trust and working together. But yeah, for the most part, solutions aren't brought to us from folks that oppose the work that we want to do here.
Our next question comes from Mark Goodall. Actually, Laura Nugent, and then Mark Goodall follows up. So I'm going to combine these two questions if that's okay.
Absolutely.
How long of a time frame do individuals need to practice sobriety before being able to move into your proposed supportive housing facility at the Ramada? To which Mark Goodall responds, and how do you deal with those that then fall off the wagon?
Very good question, Margoddle Lork, if I heard that correctly. Again, not all the details are confirmed, but to the best of my knowledge, how we run that in Calgary at our 1010 center is that people need to be showing signs of sobriety for 30 days before coming into our building. I could be wrong on that, but the last I heard, it was a 30-day period. And so we are looking for people that, again, that are not needing treatment. We are looking for residents that, fairly stable in their lives, just like another property manager would. They would want to talk with some references. They would want to see that this is a person that can be trusted, that would be able to pay their rent. This would be no different for the Mustard Seed. We would want to have those conversations like other property managers and landlords would have, to make sure that this is someone that would be a safe person in our building, someone that has an income, whether they're working or maybe has a fixed income, and a person that isn't needing treatment or a person that isn't needing detox. This would not be an appropriate place for that. We would encourage them to go to a treatment center or start off with detox and then treatment to an appropriate space. And then maybe when they're stable and they're in a lives where they've been having and sobriety, then at that place, we would interview them, meet them, and determine if they would fit into the community well. Thank you for the question from the Herald. Yes, we have had um, some outbreaks at our other shelters. I believe the last that I heard at our shelter in Calgary, I think there was maybe 5 or 6 cases of COVID or people that needed to isolate. And so we also operate in partnership with Alberta Health Services. We have operated isolation centers as well for people in another location where individuals have a safe space to be while they need to isolate. And so we have done that. We also, since March, we've had to open a number of overflow sites across the province. And we did a couple with just a couple weeks notice to ensure that people had a safe space from the next person sleeping beside them. In Edmonton, for instance, we have partnered with 2 other organizations at a very large shelter there. As I mentioned earlier, we also opened up a shelter in the south side of Edmonton just recently on November 1st. And so we are expanding our reach. Last year, I believe we had 486 mats. This winter, we're going to have up to 800 emergency beds for people. We are partnering with the Alberta government to try to open up more space. And we know that they really want us to get space open here in Lethbridge to help relieve some of the pressures over at Alpha House and to support them. And we partner with them in Calgary. They actually use one of our buildings for part of their overflow space in Calgary. And so we've been partnered with Alpha House for decades, and we look forward to just continuing and fostering that relationship here in Red Deer. And so, yes, we really want to provide space for people. The Mustard Seed uses high levels of PPE. The cleaning products that we use are the same ones that are used at the hospital. And right from day one, we have taken every measure that we can possibly take to make sure that all of our properties are very clean. They're constantly cleaned and sanitized, that all of our staff are wearing proper PPE. And I just heard recently that somebody just mentioned to one of our leaders in Calgary how impressed they are at the very low numbers at the Mustard Seed compared to some of the other shelters across the province. Again, because of those very high standards that we're holding our staff to and our volunteers to make sure that it's as clean and safe in its environment, so the spread is minimized as much as possible.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Dylan Delaney. And again, there's 3 questions on this topic in the queue, so I'm going to bring them together and read them all out. I'm curious about the proximity to multiple schools, especially to Lakeview Elementary and Gilbert Patterson Middle School. Lots of children walk past that Ramada building during the school year. And then the next question on the same subject is from Laura Nugent. Do you see any issues arising from the supportive housing facility being so close to schools? Will children be safe walking on 12th Avenue next to the facility? And as well, Wanda Gibbons, there seems to be an issue for some folks with poor people having permanent housing near schools. So I think that is the ones that I see that are pertaining to schools in the queue. So just wondering if you can address that issue.
Thank you, Dawn and Laura and others for your questions about this. Those are very valid questions and very valid concerns. I'm a father of a young son, and that's a valid question. I can speak to the work that we have done in our other communities. For instance, I already talked about the Edmonton locator, where there would be a lot more traffic, where this is not a shelter. So we do not have people coming and going to this place, coming to search for meals. This is an apartment like any other apartment building, where we don't know who's in any building, and we don't know who's in any of these buildings in our community. But we have seen crime come down significantly on many of our properties across Western Canada. Also in Riverside Meadows, in the neighborhood in Red Deer, where the Mustard Seed is located. After about a year and a half, and it's not just the Mustard Seed, but the great work of the Red Deer RCMP, partnering with the community around us, we saw a huge decrease of crime in the neighborhood around the Mustard Seed. And so we will make sure that we do all that we can to create a very safe space with proper lighting, with proper cameras, again, with a high amount of proximity walks from our team. And we would be looking for law-abiding citizens to live in that building. That bar would be very, very high, and protecting our children is absolutely critical for all of us as adults and all of us as citizens in Lethbridge or whatever city we live in. And so this would be absolutely paramount for the Mustard Seed to make sure that people walking by, especially children and vulnerable people, would feel very, very safe in that community. And again, we will not have high amounts of traffic, foot traffic coming and going to this building. These would be people very similar to people living in other buildings that just cannot afford market rent. Somebody that needs a space to move forwards in their life, and that will actually hopefully enrich the community around them because they give back. And so, for instance, you know, we have a couple community gardens that we're a part of in various cities, where our residents are over there working with the community, planting vegetables and flowers in the springtime. And so that would be very Lethbridge to be involved in the community, to provide healthy opportunities for people to be engaged and being active, and making sure that it's a very, very, very safe environment. We would absolutely demand that from these folks. And if there was any kind of illegal activity, we would deal with that very swiftly and very promptly. We work very closely with the local police in each of our communities. I've already met with the Lethbridge police here in Lethbridge, and they were excited to meet us right out of the gates and to build a strong relationship with us. What we have seen, for instance, other communities, I've heard from a number of officers over the years that we sure love working with the Mustard Seed. And I'm not saying that comment to boast or to brag. I'm just sharing that information that they've said to me, because often the calls go down when the mustard comes in from places where there was activities before. Even a regular hotel building, there can be parties, there can be lots of stuff going on in hotel buildings that we don't know about. People that are staying at a hotel don't have to meet with a property manager and do an interview with them to move into the building. And so that is something that we offer. We're going to actually be screening these people, making sure that they're stable, that they're law-abiding citizens, and they're people that would be appropriate for that community. Those that would be welcome into our building, and making sure that those that are in the neighborhood, especially children and vulnerable people, feel very, very safe. That would be very, very important to me as a father, and that's very, very important to the Mustard Seed.
Okay. Our next question comes from Henning Mundell. Is there any thought given to people who just cannot cope individually to handle looking after their own room, let alone apartment? Any concept of community living for some were such more suitable?
Thanks for your question, Henning. I'm not sure if I fully understand. I will do my best to answer it. So again, I don't know all the details, but one of the things that we do in Calgary is we have people that go in and do regular cleaning in all of the units, and that does a number of things. It makes sure that the building and the investment that we've made in the community stays in good shape. But what it also does is it makes sure that people respect that place where they're living. And it also gives them that dignity and respect. To have somebody come in and to clean your home is what an amazing opportunity that is for people. And so we do that to make cared for, and we make sure that we check in on people. So for instance, if they don't use let's say they don't use their fob for 72 hours to enter their room, we may just give them a call, or even maybe just knock on the door to just do a wellness check to make sure. And so the care that would be there for people would be more than you would see in a regular apartment building, where you would just have a property manager that likely isn't even on site, or a landlord that may not even be on site. And so protecting their wellness and caring for them and making sure that they are healthy and doing well is very, very important to us. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Our next group of questions deals with people's, and I'll read the first one and I'll read another group of questions that are related. Dave Annis, you don't have to sell me that the mustard seed is a great idea. I thought and still do that the SCS was a great idea. How will you avoid just becoming SCS 2.0? And then we have a couple of other questions that are fairly similar, relating to the concept of will you just become an SCS. Glenn F., for example, we have already had an SCS and a shelter in downtown. It crushed my small business and the businesses of my friends. Stop commercializing homelessness in our city. And then Dave Annis, please take Glenn's comment above serious. And I think there's another one worried about this just becoming another SCS. So maybe just answer the questions related to the safe consumption site. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Annalise. Seed does not operate supervised consumption sites. As I said before, it's important to have supports across the spectrum wherever people might find themselves dealing with poverty or homelessness. But the Mustard Seed does not operate supervised consumption sites. We've heard this a lot in your community, how that experience did not go very well. I've talked with business owners. I've heard they're very passionate about that. And I'm very sorry, Glenn, for you and your friends' businesses that were affected negatively. This is an affordable housing initiative to try to help give sons and daughters, mums and dads a place to live. I've been at work before at somebody pulled up and dropped their parent off at our front door and said, I can't care for my mom anymore. That's a really, really hard thing to do, to bring someone's elderly parent in that's been dropped off and give them a mat to stay on the ground. But it's so critical to make sure that we get that person into a safe and affordable place to live where they're cared for, because this is a human being that deserves dignity and respect. We are not in the business of commercializing homelessness. We are in the business of reducing the effects of poverty and homelessness. Feed children that don't have food when they go to school. We build affordable housing for people that cannot afford market rents. We provide a doctor to a person that maybe hasn't had a doctor for the last 5 years or 20 years of their life. We try to get them in touch with a psychologist or a counselor where they can go and share the difficult challenges and maybe face some of the traumas of their childhood or their lives, maybe for the first time in their life. And we see a lot of people change their lives at the Mustard Seed and move forwards. Building relationships with the business community is absolutely paramount and critical. A number of businesses, I know many business owners around our centers in Calgary, some of them in Edmonton, and I know many of them, they had a lot of similar questions and concerns that some of you have, Dave and Glenn and others. The Mustard Seed wants your businesses to thrive, and we want to build a very trusted relationship with you. And so just like one of the businesses across the street from us in Red Deer, the owner told me after maybe being there a couple times in our first week in 2016, she said, Byron, I've seen you and your team more times in the last 2 weeks than I saw the previous operators 5 years. And that's not to try to cast any negativity on other folks and whatnot, but we build relationships. We go into businesses. Yesterday, as I went into a number of businesses around the proposed Ramada site, I also spent a decent amount of money getting some Christmas presents and having lunch. And we want to give back to the community. for instance, I think about the amazing bakery in Red Deer that makes hundreds and hundreds of fresh whole wheat buns every day and delivers them to our door so that we can feed children that go to school hungry that likely didn't have breakfast that day. And so we work with it, and we hope that the businesses around us would know that they can trust us, but we have to earn your respect and trust. And we also help other organizations around us. Sometimes there might be other charities or groups. And so we do what we can to give back to that community and make sure that it's a very clean environment and that no loitering is allowed on our property. Yeah, we accept all human beings at the Mustard Seed. Doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, what you believe or don't believe.
Hang on, sorry.
You're welcome to Mustard Seed.
Hang on, sorry. I was muted, so let me say that again. I had muted myself, so I'm just going to repeat what I'm sorry. I'm just going to repeat what I said. So the question from Alison Fang, how are different religious views for clients, volunteers, and staff welcome? And then Maria Fitzpatrick, also on religious views, as well as Bev Mundell. Must residents be Christian? Must residents attend school? And Marie Fitzpatrick, do residents have to be involved with spiritual services? Thank you.
Thank you, Allison, Bev, Maria, and others that have asked questions. I did briefly talk about this before, and I'll try to be very quick in my answer. All human beings are welcome to the Mustard Seed. Doesn't matter what culture you come from, what you may or may not believe in, your background, everybody is welcome. No spiritual services are mandatory at the Mustard Seed. There are those organizations out there, but at the Mustard Seed, they are always 100% voluntary.
Okay.
They're there for people if they want to do that, but they're absolutely voluntary.
Great. Christina Strong, what will happen to existing staff?
Existing staff where?
Doesn't say.
I don't understand the question. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know who you're talking about. I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay. I think she's assuming that you were taking over the shelter, which is not the case, right?
No. We're opening a new shelter.
Yeah. Once established, will there be a mechanism for community members to advise on issues relating to the property? A feedback mechanism, good or not so good? And this was asked by CM.
CM?
Yeah.
Thank you, CM, for your question. At first, I thought you were maybe talking about the clients. So first of all, the clients, we guests or residents, and there is a mechanism for them to provide feedback to us. And we also start up like advisory councils amongst them, because the voice of the lived experience and those receiving the care is critical and crucial to have involved throughout your process. With the community at large, we are accessible. One of our values is transparent accountability. So people around our businesses, our locations across Western Canada, they know they can call us anytime. If they have a concern, give us a call. We'll be able to meet you in person if it's appropriate during COVID, but we will absolutely have a conversation with you. And if us, please know that if we haven't got back to you, we will just as quickly as we can. But we have spoken to well over probably 150 people with questions, and we're doing our very best to hear your questions and provide feedback to you.
And you're also having that session in January, right?
Yes, we'll be having a virtual town hall, which would be similar to this. And that date will be put on our website at thec.ca/Lethbridge when we finalize those details.
Great. John Estabrooks, how has a faith community in Lethbridge responded to the news of your plans to come to Lethbridge? Is there strong support?
Thanks for your question, John. Yes, we have had the wonderful opportunity to meet with a lot of people in the faith community, and the support has been overwhelmingly positive. Met with a number of pastors around the community, and so many of them have just opened their doors to us to support us. Can't wait to send volunteers from their congregations, and have just done a lot of things to support us, to pray for us. And so thank you to the church community around Lethbridge and Southern Alberta for offering your support for us. We greatly appreciate it. We are a parachurch organization, and so we partner with the church and the community. So it's critical for us to partner with the local church and the community at large. We can't do what we do without them. So thank you, John, for your support, and thank you to the rest of the church community here in Lethbridge.
Great. Our next question comes from Carol. As a charitable organization, what portion of the Mustard Seed's overall budget goes to staff and administrative costs?
Sorry, what was the name? Carol?
Yeah, Carol Camillo.
Thank you very much for your question, Carol. Please don't quote me on this. My boss, who might be watching, he would know that number. I believe that our overall administration cost is below 10%, if I remember correctly. I do know that it is far below the average that we see across the nation and in Alberta. So we work very, very hard at keeping our administrative costs as low as possible. And so that's something that we always strive towards. It does take a lot of support from people to do the work that we do across Western Canada. But again, the over 100,000 volunteer hours is just incredible. And so that is something that you don't see in a lot of organizations like Mustard Seed. There are some that I've met that say, we don't believe in working with volunteers, or this work is too risky to work with volunteers. For us, they're humans. Whether someone is paid or unpaid, we have to provide opportunity for the whole community to get involved. And so by heavily involving the community like that, for folks that are coming in to serve meals, to do dishes, all the way maybe up to our board of directors and so many positions in between, we rely heavily on volunteers and we take every single donation and do all the best we can to be very, very good stewards to everything that's been entrusted to us. And we're very, very transparent with all of our financial information. You can find all of that on our website. And that's very, very important to us to be very, very transparent and very, very accountable to everything that has been entrusted to us. Thanks for your question.
I know Sheldon Brown kind of touches on the spiritual religious viewpoints, but the other part of the question is quite interesting because I know you've answered that. But will existing staff at the hotels be expected to share and exhibit particular religious spiritual viewpoints with people? I guess, are you going to keep on the staff at the hotels?
So again, so the hotel's for sale. The proposed site there at the Ramada, that business has been sale for quite some time. And so if the Mustard Seed does get the funding and this goes ahead, then that business would be sold, whether they move. But just like any other business, the Mustard Seed would come in, and we're open to meet with anybody in the community that wants to work with us. And so, that we have met with a number of folks across Lethbridge, and we have a number of people that are in the queue waiting to cover with us if we're able to open this shelter here this winter. So that's another thing that we haven't talked about today. We're really excited to offer employment to likely over 20 people in the city of Lethbridge. And so we're excited to help folks and find some jobs and to join the work that we're doing.
Excellent. We've got a couple of questions about why you're coming to Lethbridge. So Byron Anderson, why would the Mustard Seed want to acquire the Ramada? And then Wanda Gibbons, I was still looking to know why they are coming to the city. Was there a conversation or invite from someone or group in Lethbridge, in town? You mentioned... Yeah, that's it. So there seems to be a couple of questions about why are you coming? Like, what was the impetus of you coming to Lethbridge?
Thank you. I think it was Byron for your question. The Mustard Seed is trying to reduce poverty. And so we have known for a number of years that the city of Lethbridge has been impacted by poverty. We know that over 20% of people pay more than half of their income for their shelter. And that time there was a needs assessment done in 2019 that there were more than 400 people on a wait list for housing. And so because of that, and yes, we have had a number of conversations with a number of people, city of Lethbridge and the community of Lethbridge, had a lot of those types of conversations. And because of the work that we've done in other cities where we've been able to get people into an affordable and safe and secure environment, that is something that a lot of people in this community have been really hoping for because of the long history and the great work that has been done in other communities. Why the proposed site at the Ramada? I talked about it before. It's because of the Rapid Housing Initiative with the federal government. So they have made funds available across every province and territory in the nation, and they have targeted hotels as one of the options to repurpose because of our economy struggles that we're facing. A lot of these hotels are for sale. If you drive around, you'll see a lot of them have for sale signs up. So it's an opportunity to use that investment that was put in by an organization and to help address the homelessness that we have in our community and the lack of affordable. And so it's a great opportunity for the city of Lethbridge to find solutions to try to provide a safe space for people to live.
Thank you. Laurie Nugent has a follow-up on her couple questions. I think it was one of the first questions we asked. Will there be children living in the supportive living housing facilities? I realize you addressed the couples, but I'm also wondering about kids.
Thank you, Laurie, for your question. This a couple times throughout that we are in the middle of the funding application. All the particulars for the building have not been determined. To the best of my knowledge, there will not be children living, but that may not be the case. There may be a single parent or a small family. Again, it's a very small space. And so we would have to finalize those decisions based on all of the particulars of the funding regulation, the funding details. And so some of those conversations are still happening at the Mustard Seed. And again, we still have not secured the funding. And so at this time, I don't have all the particular details, but to the best of my knowledge at this current time, I don't believe that there would be children in the building.
Marie Fitzpatrick, does Jason Nixon have any connection with the Mustard Seed as his father did?
Thanks, Marie, for your question. The Minister of the Environment, Minister Nixon, is not involved with the Mustard Seed other than just as a support. And so no, he's not employed by the Mustard Seed. He's got a very full portfolio as a Minister of the Environment with the Alberta government. And so no, he is not involved with the Mustard Seed.
Laurie Schultz, would you talk about your intake process?
Hi, Laurie. I think I answered that question before. We would sit down with them like any landlord or property manager would, make sure that it's a stable person that has an income that could pay their rent, that we feel that they would be a law-abiding citizen, they can be dependable. Those would be the requirements for a person. It's not a person that's needing treatment, not a person that's needing detox. It's a person that's fairly stable in their lives that needs affordable rent because they can't afford the current market rent because of their financial situation. And so we would screen them and interview them very similarly to other property managers and landlords.
We're almost coming up to 1:15. Are you okay to take 2 more questions?
Sure can.
Okay, we really appreciate your time here. We know that we had scheduled to go till till the hour, till 11 o'clock. We're already way past that, so we really appreciate your time in answering these questions. I'll run through the last two questions. Colleen Quintel, do you provide dishes / bedding, etc. to the apartments, and do you have a life skills program for tenants?
Thank you, Colleen, for your question. We have, so to use our 1010 building in Calgary as a reference point, there any given week, probably less during COVID, obviously, any given month, sorry, there's probably 20 different types of things that are going on for people, whether it's maybe it's a walking club in the community, whether it's supports for like a community kitchen where people would come together and maybe cook together. That may not be able to work because I don't believe there would be like a shared kitchen facility there. But we try to do everything we can to support people's social skills or life skills. That's something that would be that we would take very seriously. We have a lot of people that do some pretty incredible things for the Mustard Seed. For instance, we have groups of people that knit blankets. And so in most of our cities, when somebody moves out into affordable housing, we're able to hand them these beautifully hand knit blankets and quilts for people. And we also, yes, we do try to help them out with some supports to get off their 2 feet and have kind of like a starter home kit for them if there's things that they need. Yes, we would look at providing some of those basic essentials to people to help them out.
Our last question comes from Bev Mundell, and that is regarding how do you ensure no drugs come into the building?
Well, getting some big feedback there, sorry.
Sorry, that's on my end. The fire trucks are coming by.
No worries, Annalise. Bev, thank you for your question. So because we have 24/7 residential support staff that are there, everybody that comes in is going to see one of those team members, and they are going to have a very, very brief conversation. We're going to see them. We're going to make eye contact with them. And so in that scenario, we're going to be able to know if people maybe aren't safe to be in the building. But what we would want is for them to be in their unit and is a very, very safe place for them to be. We don't want them wandering around the community. We want them to be in their home in a very safe environment. And so if there was some type of behavior, whether it be substance related or not, if there was some type of behavior that was affecting other people in the building, our team would have a conversation with the person the next day. And we would sit down with them and see if there's different types of supports that we could give them to deal with whatever those barriers might be. But we would want them to be in their home in a safe space, not outside walking around the neighborhood or bothering people in the community. We'd want them to be in a very, very safe space in their own home until the next day when we could have a conversation with them, to give them that dignity and respect that many of us have needed in our lives when we faced difficult times. And so that's what we would do. We would make sure that we do all we can to make sure that they're a safe person, that they're a law-abiding citizen like any other apartment building in our community, and make sure that they're doing their best to follow the rules and the guidelines.
Okay, I know I said 2 questions. One quickie, if you're open to it. How much is the rent?
Thank you for the question. I don't have the details. However, traditional affordable housing typically is about 10-ish% below market value. And in this building, it could potentially be lower than that to just lower the barrier for people looking for affordable housing. But it is too early in the process. Again, we haven't received the funding. And so those details have not been confirmed at this time. Again, as details emerge, if you go to the c.ca/Lethbridge, as we finalize details, we will put as much of that information up there as possible. But at this time, we're very, very early in the stages. We don't even have the proper zoning for this building. We don't have the funds for this building. And so we're in the very early stages of our community engagement plan. So this today is just part of that. So we just want to thank thank the group today for this amazing opportunity to share with you, to talk with some of you, to put a one face to. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to read out a few thank yous from the queue. Rose, thank you, Mr. Bradley, for the question and the answering opportunity. And I'm just scrolling down here. Wanda Gibson, this has been very informative, and I think cleared up many misconceptions. Can you put a link where folks can volunteer to support your future initiative? Linda Stromsmo, thank you, SACPA, for hosting this very informative information session. Thank you, Byron Bradley and Mustard Seed, for this presentation. Thank you, Byron, from Laurie Schultz, for an informative presentation. The list goes on. Mark Goddell, many thanks for addressing the many misconceptions that are out there, and since your proposal has come to light. And there's many, many more thank yous. I'd be here for another hour reading those out. Before we end the session, do you have a take-home message for us, please?
Thank you, everyone, for your luck at the end there. I really appreciate that. You can email us at info.lethbridge@theseed.ca if you have any further questions, or if you're interested in volunteering, and we'll get with you just as quickly as we can. At the Mustard Seed, we want to provide an opportunity to become self-sufficient. We want them to become independent and integrated back into the society, back into the community. We want them to feel like they are a person in the community that are supported, cared for, just like what the rest of us want. We want them to have hope in their lives, and we want them to move forwards and deal with the things that might have poverty or challenges in their lives, whether that's physical or mental health. We care for them and provide supports for them and give them a home, a place that they could go over, like our founder, Pat Nixon, when those gentlemen took him into their home, where they can close the door, have a breath of fresh air, and have the safety and security that they deserve as a human being. Thank you very much for coming in today and tuning in, and may God bless you, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. On behalf of SACPA, thank you very much, Byron. And on behalf of SACPA, I want to also wish everybody a very good holiday season, and we look forward to returning in January and seeing you back in January. And be safe, everybody. Take care.